Sonali Mukherjee rarely leaves this room. It's here with her family that she feels safe, protected from the glares and gossip of complete strangers. She was a 17-year-old sociology student who dreamt of getting an office job to support her family. But that all changed when 3 men from her neighborhood broke into her home and threw acid on her. Her only crime was rebuffing their advances. Sonali has 70% burns to her body. In fact, doctors thought she would never survive. Suffering from agonizing pain in her hospital bed, she remembers praying to God.
तो बस इतनी जिंदगी मुझे दे देना, इतनी सांसें दे देना ताकि मैं मेरे साथ अन्याय हुआ है, अत्याचार हुआ है, मैं उसका सामना कर सकूं हिम्मत के साथ और उन लोगों से बदला ले सकूं और आगे उनको पनिशमेंट करना अपने हिसाब से, लेकिन मैं देखना चाहती हूं कि क्या होता है, उनका पनिशमेंट मैं देखना चाहती हूँ, मेरी सांसें उतने दिनों तक छोड़ देना। मैंने बस इतनी प्रार्थना की थी और शायद ईश्वर ने मेरी प्रार्थना को उस वक्त सुना था ताकि आज मैं आप लोगों के बीच जिंदा हूँ।
9 years on, that day still hasn't come. Despite being convicted, her attackers only spent 2.5 years in prison. Her lawyer suspects it was because of a weak police investigation.
मेरे लिए वो दिन इतना सदमा लगा, मुझे इतना शॉकिंग था। मैंने कहा भगवान, हम किस समाज में जीते हैं? ये कानून, ये सरकार, ये न्याय, ये पुलिस, ये सब क्या सिर्फ दिखावे के लिए है? क्या सच में ये इंसाफ करती है?
Tens of thousands of Indians asked themselves these very questions after the brutal rape and murder of a 23-year-old physiotherapy student in Delhi in December 2012. Large crowds protested outside the Indian Parliament, saying they were fed up with the rising number of assaults on women and what they called an apathetic government and a rampantly corrupt police force. Some of those protests turned violent. The demonstrators demanded immediate reforms to laws and harsher punishments for convicted perpetrators. It was under this overwhelming pressure that the government passed the Criminal Law Amendment Bill in March 2013, which recognises for the first time a number of crimes like acid attacks and increases minimum punishment from 7 years to 10. But women's rights activists like parliamentarian Brinda Karat says the law does not go far enough.
You know, I've been dealing with so many cases of victims of acid attack, and just now I'm dealing with a case where 2 young girls, they were attacked and both of them have lost their vision entirely, right here in Delhi. And you'll be shocked to hear that there has not been a single rupee paid either for their medical rehabilitation or for any type of rehabilitation. I mean, I think that is cruelty beyond measure. And I think that is state cruelty.
There are no official records kept of acid attacks in India, but activists believe there's anywhere between 100 and 1,000 assaults a year. They admit the number of reported cases is rising. Women's groups say the government is failing to meet its responsibility to victims, who often have to pay tens of thousands of dollars for medical treatment.
If we accept and recognize the principle of due diligence, which means that the state must protect its women citizens, if a woman is subjected to an acid attack, there is obviously a failure on the part of the state to protect her. Therefore, there is an obligation on the state to then make sure that her medical and other concerns are met with.
Many are also trying to lobby the government to restrict the sale of hydrochloric, sulfuric and nitric acid, substances most commonly used for attacks. Acid is as easy to buy in India as a paintbrush, and it's almost as cheap. It's available at any local hardware store for less than $1. But this harmless-looking bottle has destroyed the lives of thousands of Indian women. Vrinda Grover is a lawyer and human rights activist who has been lobbying the government to monitor the sale of acid in India, much like neighbouring Bangladesh, where there is mandatory registration for both sellers and buyers.
When acid is used as a weapon, you will have to regulate it as you would regulate the sale of any arm or other form of weapon, which you know. You would not say, well, just because X is being used as a weapon, a gun, we don't care how it's going to be sold. It actually has an equally lethal, if not worse effect than any other form of armament that we know.
This is of little comfort to Sonali Mukherjee. She has already had 26 surgeries and has spent around $60,000 on medical care. But her life will never be the same again.
कि लड़की की ज़िंदगी उसके कितने सपने होते हैं तो एक पल में सब खत्म हो गया तो अक्सर मैंने सपने देखना ही बंद कर दिया है कुछ सोचना बंद कर दिया है फ़िलहाल तो अपनी ज़िंदगी आगे ईश्वर के हवाले किया है लेकिन खिड़की के दिल से एक आवाज़ निकलती है मैं चाहती हूँ कि ये सब बंद हो सरकार अग जागे कि हम उसके परिवार की लड़की हैं वो हम अलग नहीं हैं समाज की लड़की हैं समाज आगे आए ऐसी घटनाओं को रोकने के महिलाओं को आगे आना होगा हम अपने परिवार से अपने समाज से ऐसे इंसानों को बहिष्कार करें जो किसी की लड़की का या किसी की इंसान की ज़िंदगी को तबाह करके आया है तो कानून बदले तो ये सब हो ताकि मुझे तसल्ली होगी ज़ख्मों के मरहम लगेगा अगर ये सब बंद हो जाए किसी और लड़की को फिर एसिड से चलना ना पड़े मुझे बहुत खुशी होगी।
For Assignment Asia, I'm Karishma Vyas in New Delhi.